We're thinking. Well, hello and happy Friday afternoon. I'm here for one of my Tidbit sessions, and I want to welcome you folks who are able to join me today and also those who may watch the replay later. My topic for today that I am kind of pleased with myself about is I want to share some thoughts with self care um, for all of us. I especially like to extend this to older people, but it will help younger people too. One thing that I grew up to understand is that we really are not born with any spare parts. We need to take care of what we're given at birth and keep it in the best shape we can. And sensibly, of course. I mean, just sensible things like the reasonable rest, decent food, fairly like 3 or 4 times a day, depending on how large your meals are, and just not doing things that are super risky, and doing everything we can to avoid becoming ill. And that's general service, but that's how I concentrated on taking care of myself as I was growing up, and to this day I still do. I still do my regular visits, my doctor, my dentist, my eye doctor. I'm going to be visiting a chiropractor on Monday to get some input from her on some care I might be able to get. So I got to thinking, yeah, here we are, almost at the end of summer. People have been out taking in a lot of sun. I don't, because my skin doesn't like the sun. I am much better in shade or inside. And they're probably ending up this summer feeling kind of worn down. And of course, we're kicking into school sessions, and people are starting to think about the holidays already and that kind of thing. So the pace doesn't slow down. So, one of the things I want to mention is always, every day, find at least one, maybe two or three different little slots of time in that day and make it your time for you. You can take a walk, you can sit quietly, and just kind of let your mind kind of go inside. Because as I like to share with people, we all have a beautiful soul self that lives in our human body. And that soul self is kind of quiet, but it loves us. And in time to time, it will urge us, to do or to not do some activity. Thankfully, I've listened to mine quite a few times, and it's paid off over the years. There were some other times I didn't hear it and did what I thought I should do, and sometimes that did not work out. So, but anyway, the time for you is just simple, nice, slow, relaxing breaths in, as comfortably deep as you can. Might want to think that your belly is going to be like a nice little balloon for a little bit. And then when you exhale, again, kind of steady, doesn't have to be real fast, doesn't have to be really forced. Because if you'll do this while you're taking this time for you, it generally absolutely will let your body kind of tune in, just kind of like, oh, yeah, we're chilling now. Okay, yeah, we can do this. So that's one of the main things I recommend. I mentioned earlier, just eat decent food. I personally stay away from a lot of sauces. I stay away from deep fried stuff as much as I can. I happen to like lean protein and fruits and vegetables. I also avoid a lot of bread products, mainly because I don't really want all that wheat. There are some other grains that are probably much healthier, but I'm training myself just to avoid it as much as I can. So that's just a couple of ideas. I mean, for sleep, my body has a kind of rhythm that I've kind of settled into with it. Usually I'm getting sleepy about 10:30 or so, so somewhere around that time or 11 I call it a night, and then most mornings I'll wake up somewhere around maybe 6:30 or 7. And once in a while my body makes me sleep in, and I never give it any static. Okay, you think I needed that? Thank you. Just like common sense stuff. We listen to our body. We let our body tell us what they want or what they don't want. And I'm using plural because of I'm not the only one this is coming to. So, having said that, it's not too difficult to begin to take another few moments a few times a day and just check in with your body. Are you feeling any hunger? Do you have any sore muscles? What's your mood? How are your the feeling part of you, or how is the feeling part, the various moods coming for you, because if you do that a few times a day, and it doesn't take very long, maybe a minute or so each time, you'll begin to sense a kind of a pattern, I believe. Like I've noticed most every afternoon, somewhere around 2 or 3, I usually get a case of what I call the dozies. And that's the after lunch habit of my body is working on digesting the food. And I say, okay, I take that into account. Don't do anything that requires heavy thinking when I'm, dealing with that. And if your body's telling you it's tired, well, by all means, go get some sleep. People keep putting it off and then they wonder why they're dragging the next day. So, along with the self care that I like to mention is a little bit deeper into getting to know our real self, getting a better connection with our soul self, which is something that I personally will never stop doing. And I have been doing this for a good many years. And we are really our very own best friend. And we are also our very own, how should I say, I don't want to say disciplinarian, that's not the word I have, but we have the right to make decisions that benefit us. And that might mean sometimes foregoing something that might have been fun to attend. It might mean foregoing a dessert that we know later our body would be saying we shouldn't have done that. That's the kind of things I'm referring to. And I'm not going to take time to talk about it here, but there's some wonderful muscle testing techniques that you can learn to use. And I actually have put a description of a couple of them in my course, which I'll tell you about a little later. But it's just learning what our body's way is of telling us that, yes, this is all right, or no, don't do that, for various things. And you can even learn to ask or make a statement where you need a yes or no answer, and you'll know how to look for that yes or no answer. It can be anything. Do I want to eat Italian food tonight? Or should I stop by this grocery store to get something for dinner tonight? Whatever it is that's immediately coming up. So I'm touching on these very, very lightly today because I like to treat this as just a visit. It's like I'm sitting at a nice table with you, and we're sipping on our respective drink. Mine happens to be water right now. And, it's just a nice little visit. But I do like to encourage people, just remember, great self-care helps you be the person that can best first help yourself and then help others as you see the opportunity or that you need. Now, this does not mean drive yourself into the ground to make sure everybody around you gets everything they want. We've all, I think, fallen prey to that one time or another. And that just wears us out so badly. Then we get kind of soured on, on the whole idea. But I'm referring to bear in mind, keep a mindful focus on, what does my body really enjoy? What can I do to keep my body in great shape? What can I do to keep my body feeling upbeat, happy, optimistic? Those are the kinds of things I like to invite people to take these little brief pauses and then just reflect to themselves and see what answers may come back. And I tell people, you may or may not get an answer. You might get a feeling, you might get a scene, like this little scene will show up, or you may not hear anything for a while or see anything. The body responds, and this is true of our soul self, responds in what it feels is the best way. And it's up to us to learn how to, acknowledge it and receive it. So yeah, I'm pretty grateful on the whole, because when my parents gave me that advice, I forewent some of the school sports. The only one that I played where I did get an injury was one time in volleyball. I sprained one of my pointer fingers, the one that we're always pointing. That finger was sore. I had to keep massaging it for a good week or so. And I thought, good, I'm glad I'm not doing anything really rough. So, but yeah, self-care is important. And let me share something with you real quick, because growing up, I didn't feel very important. I felt like I was owned by my parents. I felt like they kept me in this strict little box: do your duties, go to school, do this, do that. So for a long time, I didn't have that sense of, striving to do whatever I could to keep myself in pretty decent health, keep my body, in a state of wellness and well-being combined. So, that kind of came about. I think it started probably when I was in my 20s, after I'd gotten past childhood and gotten through college. I began to realize more because we're not being selfish when we do this. To elaborate, and I know that's kind of a strong statement, but great self care is not being selfish. It is caring for you so you can be a more effective and really just well, happy, even fulfilled person. And I like to write things, and sometimes I'll sit down and I'll start writing, even if it's just, I wonder what I'd like to do today just for me. That's another thing. Every day, one activity at least just for you. And it might be reading a book for a while. It might be taking a walk. Um, Maybe on a little bit more fancier level, once in a rare while, I might decide to eat out. I don't like to eat out very much. I'd rather, have stuff in my fridge that I can fall back on. But still, it's a choice, and there's ways to make, I'll just say, really superb choices in things like am I going to go out? Where am I going to eat? Am I going to go shopping? What do I need? How can I combine the trips so I don't burn up as much energy? Because one little trick I learned a long time ago is run your errands as stops in a circle. Don't do one errand this day, one errand the next day. It's a lot less tiring. Yes, I'll make anywhere from 2 to about 5 or 6 stops in a day. I come home and I'm tired, so I chill for a while. And then the next day I can stay in, and sometimes the next day I can stay in too, because I got the errands done. So anyhow, I'm just kind of, like I say, it's something I've been thinking about, and I kind of am happy with myself. I've already got my yearly appointments scheduled. They'll be next month and October. And then that gets me in pretty decent shape for next year. So, but I'd like to remind you too, just remind yourself, we were all created by a beautiful being. Some people call this being God. Some call it universe or the infinite. I like to call source. And there's a lot of helpers that this wonderful source has. And that's who we receive any and all love and power and help and, people who care about us. Which, another thing, growing up, I really didn't expect people to care about me. Well, thankfully, I shook that back in about my 20s or 30s. So I was grateful to give up that misbelief. Because it's okay, I realize, to be cared about. It's okay to let people be kind. One thing I've had to work on is to be able to receive without feeling right away like I have to, return something, because any exchange of energy needs to be, pretty much a level exchange or fairly equal. So I just keep that in mind and appreciate it when people do nice things for me, and I appreciate it when I can do nice things for someone else too. It's a great feeling. And I was one other thing I wanted to talk to you about very briefly. I hope that maybe that'll give you some thoughts to maybe improve just how you can talk with yourself and give yourself some attention. You deserve it. You're worth it, for sure. And again, that's not being a big ego. It's not being selfish or anything like that. So, but I just want to share briefly. I'll sign off pretty quickly because I think I'm trying to keep it as under 30 minutes if I can. So, I do have a course available. It's called Discover Yourself, and that is the capital S self. That is the inner soul self. In that course, I do include things such as some muscle testing techniques so you can learn to talk better with your body, and some self-care tips. But I also go into like language, word usage, your mindset, thinking of things as possibilities, remembering that we do have choices, and even deciding not to make a choice is still a decision. And there's been times in my life when I decided not to choose something, so I just passed it by. No regrets about that. It was just at the time, that's what I felt worked best. So the other thing I want to share with you, and I don't have anything to show you because I didn't pull my screen up, but I am offering some wonderful apps to help people take these little bits of time for themselves. One is called Inner Compass. You literally get to talk with yourself with the help of the app. I have another one that is, I believe it's titled You Are So Much More Than You Even Begin to Think You Are. And of course, that helps people get more into their real self, find that beautiful being inside. So, to, yeah, kind of to wrap things up a bit, thank you all for joining me. And I just want to intend for each of you just to have a fabulous month. I'll most likely do another topic next Friday. I find it kind of nice to do these little visits, and would love it if you could join me. And in the meantime, I just want to say thank you. My soul self greets your soul self in love, joy, gratitude, harmony, light, power, and peace. So, big hug coming your way, virtual though it might be, and have a wonderful rest of August. And hopefully, I'll be able to touch base with you again soon. Thank you very much. Okay. End stream. There we go. Not yet. There we go.